Hello, everyone. This is Tannu Jain. Hello, everyone. This is Tannu Jain. And today I'm here to present you all about making it real, authentic integration in PYP unit plans. I had rolled out this voting where I had given the option of six different topics which you would like me to share the information about. This was the most voted one. So I'm here to present all about making it real and how do we create this integrations within the PYP units, very authentic, very real, not forced. So let us know more about me first. I am basically a trainer. I'm a certified CBCI trainer and I run my own course, a 12-week online course where I train teachers how to design units conceptually. I'm an inquirer. I love learning and I love growing. And every time I want to learn and know new things so that I can share with people. And I'm also a teacher. I have been an IBPYP teacher for 13 years, for rather 12 years. And then I still teach, but not very often now. I'm outside the direct teaching community, but I'm still in touch with my students, still in touch with teaching community. And currently I work as an academic trainer at TIPS Learning and Research Institute at TLRI. And this is a team I work with. It's a short, small team where we train the TIPS community for the professional development and also outside community from tips. We also train them for their professional development so that they can grow their expertise and be confident professionally as well as personally. And then I'm a mother of a teenage boy and a wife of a husband. That's all about me. Let's get started. So what is this today we are going to deal with is the session objective. I put it like a question is commonly what people ask is like, what is integration? How do you define an integration? I'm not going to give a definition, but we'll try to understand and have a shared understanding what is integration. And then we try to understand why do we have to integrate? And then how do we integrate? And then we try to understand the impact and the reflection. I'm so sorry for the spelling error over here of impact, but then we try to understand whatever I'm sharing today is what I have learned as a CBCI course through Rachel French, Lynn Erickson's work, Louis Lenning's work, as well as certain things with my practical experiences within the IBPYP classroom. I have taken from grade 1 to 5, and I'm going to share that and how I do and what I believe looks like an authentic integration. And it has worked for me, and I'm sure it will work for you too. Let's first have this understanding of like why do we focus on integration? Why IB calls little bit, talks about integration. I believe that everything, wherever there's a problem or a solution, and in life, nothing are in fragmented discipline pieces. We are all living in an integrated world. Even if we want to solve a particular problem, we do not compartmentalize the solving problem, or in life, everything is not fragmented, but all integrated and interdependent. So that's one of the reasons that integration plays a very, very important role to understand. And then it helps you in a deeper understanding and promoting conceptual understanding and critical thinking. So whenever we try to solve a problem or try to understand the principles and the theories which exist in the real world, why it is the way it is, then it is all about we see how different disciplines, different things are working together. They are not fragmented pieces. It helps us to connect with the real life problems and applications more authentically. And more so, ever, it gives the purpose of an inquiry. It gives a purpose of ownership to students because they can make better connection how things are around them. They can make better connection to know the world around them, be more open-minded towards the culture. So that's one of the understanding is why integration is so very powerful. And if we connect to the real world, it will make it more authentic in our ways. So according to me, an authentic integration is like a threads or are these golden threads which connects the disciplines and the real life. In real life, when we go around, we see nature, we see technology, we see globe, we see a lot of other things around us. And that gives us the purpose of our life. But to understand that purpose, we need these disciplines. That is our language, our science, our social sciences, and art. And these subject matter or disciplines, what we have, and the real life is connected beautifully to the integration or weaving of them together, right? So like how we are wearing this, but any garments, you have warp and the weft, which intertwine together to give you a beautiful fragment. In a similar way, your real life context and all your disciplinary knowledge, skills, and concepts intertwined together or weaved together is your beautiful integration. That's how it works. And according to me, that is also, this is the analogy, or I would say the metaphor I want to use is the golden thread intertwined together like a weave or a weaving pattern. So what is integration? How do we do that integration? So every discipline, whether it is sciences, whether it is art, has knowledge, skills, and concepts. So the disciplines and the knowledge, skills, and the concept within the discipline, yes, we use that to apply in the real world, helps us the integration. Yeah. So when we say that transdisciplinary learning is what IB says for PYP learning. So it is more like a cake. So you have your ingredients are the knowledge, skills, and the from each particular discipline, giving you this beautiful cake or the real world context. So in PYP, authentic integration means designing learning around knowledge, skills, and concepts which are applied in the real world context. So let's pause and reflect. Now, sometimes I have seen initially, very, very long time back, and initially, whenever we used to plan it, or you will also resonate with me, like this human body system was a very, very common unit, which most of us had within our POI. And very long back, whenever we wanted to integrate it, we are like, okay, let's take something with art with it. Let's take something with math it because it gets connected. Let's take something about sciences. Let's use something with the language. So all the subjects which we had around, we tried to somehow fit in and connect to to teach around amazing bodies, or what we call it as body system. So eventually what happened is it became like a potpourri of a unit potpourri of facts and activities. You have certain facts of the art, we put in the activity, certain math together, certain sciences together, without logically making students see the patterns or towards conceptual understanding. Too many facts were given of each subject and we tried to fit it together, somehow trying to making those connections, which really did not make those authentic connection or relevance to that particular unit. And it was all packaged with facts and facts and facts, which was quite surface levels. So when you go back to your units, look into it. What is my unit all about? Am I integrating how many subjects? Are all my disciplines, even if I'm integrating all my disciplines within my subject, within my unit, are, there are knowledge, skills, and concepts of that particular subject really making a difference within to reach to my final conceptual understanding, which is my central idea. If it is not, think again, pause and reflect. Or sometimes we have also seen that, okay, if you have a system as a broad concept, where, okay, language art has a system, let's do that. Physical education has a system, we can connect with that, that's integration. Music has a system, that's integration. Or math has a system, that integration. So we just pick up the words, okay, or a broad concept like systems or patterns or interconnectedness, and in every subject what it is, and we try doing it. Without that each subjects are not making connection with each other, are not supporting each other towards a common goal of that particular unit. This is more towards, it's not integrated, it is more like interdisciplinary, like every disciplines we are doing it, but they are not connecting to each other. Sometimes we see that, okay, you have a system, I will do one system in my subject, you will do another systems in another subject. Sometimes I see teachers when we used to plan it earlier, or sometimes I see, okay, fine, let's do a body system. In sciences, the HRTs will do probably something like circulatory system, or she might do probably digestive system, or or probably respiratory system. Now, I cannot cover all the systems in it. So what I can do is I can give it some part of a system or any one system to my language arts unit, and then they try to do it. Or I give something related, a very small part to some other subject, and they try to do it. Yes, we need to understand that when I say integration, I mean integration is where the subjects authentically fit within my core idea, within my core conceptual understanding, within my core central idea. It has to be a purposeful within it. It cannot be something which you are moving outside and just try to pick up words or pick up broad concepts. I have perspective, so I can do something with perspective in every subject. I have form, I can do something form in every subject. If we see all our key concepts, what we call it specified concepts, are able to be integrated across all the disciplines. That doesn't mean that we're going to be using all the disciplines within one unit. We have to try to make it which is authentically purposeful. So how do we do it? Let's come back again to amazing bodies. The previous example we saw in that amazing, we did a little bit of art and so a little bit of literacy. But now again, it has literacy. But what in literacy? What concepts, knowledge and skill within the literacy that will help me to understand amazing bodies or human body system? So it's like writing process, non-fiction text, or reading comprehension, or a research process, which is very much confined to that disciplinary knowledge, skills, and concepts. And that understanding will help my students within to reach the final understanding of my amazing bodies. Because they will be reading a lot of text, which is informational text. So they should have that particular process, understand that particular process, research process. They should have the conceptual understanding of reading comprehension that they can transfer within the unit to understand amazing bodies. Next, you see art. Even though we are integrating art, it's all about symmetry, line, shape, realism, abstract, cubist. So these things, what happens is, it's an art concept that will help me to understand my body. At no point I'm leaving away my subject knowledge, my subject skills, or my subject concepts. Or for example, I have sciences, the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the digestive system, the function, the structure, the interdependence. About health, nutrition, eating disorders, weight management. Or math, it's about proportion, symmetry. But if you see in this whole example, I have not got anything related to social sciences, even though that is a subject I have. But I am not having this as part of my unit for the only reason it is not purposeful or required. The concept, knowledge, and the conceptual understanding, knowledge, and skills of social sciences is not relevant and authentic for this particular unit. So if that is not authentic and relevant, we might not use it. We only use it, which is relevant, which is authentic, and the understanding and the transfer of that conceptual understanding will help me in my understanding the core idea, that is my central idea or the theme which I have chosen. Now, how do we do this? Let's understand it later. But I hope you have understood so far that why we integrate, why integration is important, because we do not see life as fragmented pieces of disciplines, but they're interconnected, are working together in real world. Yes. So, and what is integration is something which is purposeful and relevant that will help me to understand. And we are planning to avoid, or we are trying to avoid potpourri of facts or putting all, just because we have so many teachers put into collaboration, put all the subjects which we teach together under one unit. That will be more towards forced integration, because there will be no relevant idea which will help the core concept of the whole unit. So this is the framework which I commonly use. This is basically designed by me, but then these are the steps which I have put it like a framework so that it becomes like a step-by-step process for you to understand and do it, in your next meeting. This can be applied by individual teacher within the classroom, or the framework can be used as your prompt points, as a prompt when you're having a collaborative meeting with teachers or along with your coordinator or pedagogical leadership. So you make sure that everybody has, and we make an authentic integration, and I call it as real. because we want the integrations to be real. So the step one is we recognize the conceptual focus. I try to figure out the conceptual focus. Step two is what I do is then explore the discipline. Followed by that, align the learning goals. And last is link and leverage. Now let's go step by step into each one of them and try to understand how it can be done. Step one. Step one is basically recognize the conceptual focus. To recognize the conceptual focus, you must be wondering, why do I have to have a conceptual focus when I already have a central idea? Absolutely right. You already have a central idea. You already have a theme descriptor. Very true. So, but what we can do is you have a theme descriptors, and the new theme descriptors have already given you certain broad concepts listed, as well as you have your central idea, you have your lines of inquiry, your specified concepts. Putting all these together, I try to figure out what's my conceptual focus or what's my bigger idea you want students to transfer, which is very similar to your central idea. So what I do is I try to figure out which are the more broader concepts I want this, students to do it. So if you see one of the examples is from, this is the How the World Works unit on natural disasters. This is my central idea. And then my lines of inquiry, which is continuous change, connection, responsibility. So what I have done is, and then I have taken impacts and possibilities from theme descriptors, and this is the major focus of my unit. So whatever integrations I'm going to plan, whatever disciplinary integration, the focus is all towards change, connection, possibilities, and impact. So this is my core idea, and at no point, this is like my North Star, and at no point I'm going to deviate from that, and I'll make sure whatever happens is around that. Whatever integration I choose or whatever disciplinary integration I choose, it fits into my conceptual focus or it leads to my conceptual focus or my central idea. Because this is the bigger idea I want my students to transfer as part of my unit within this theme. You can have a lot of conceptual focus. There is no exhaustive list, but this is some of the list which is given by Lynn Erickson, which I commonly use. Even you can use it if you wish to within your unit, or if you want to still stick to central idea, that's okay. Until and unless you're very, very sure your central idea, so that you are finally targeting as a focus. Sometimes central ideas, if our central ideas are not broad enough, it might not give you the proper length and the breadth to the unit. So I try to fit in within the conceptual lenses so that I get a proper length and breadth and still narrow it down to my focus. So if it is excessively broad, you might not get the focus. If it is excessively narrow, you might not. It has to be a right one. So make sure whenever you design, try to have a central idea or design a conceptual lens, make sure it is not too broad and not too narrow. It's right, so that it gives a scope for the students to have that transfer within the, within different disciplines or in real world. And these are the subject conceptual focus defined on different subjects, because as part of my practice, not only the integrated unit, but also single subject unit, I always try to have a conceptual focus, within the unit so that I can design the whole unit conceptually. I begin it from concepts and I make sure students reach to those conceptual understanding and transfer. Once you have tried to set in along with your team, along with everybody, what is the conceptual focus and what is a broad idea I want the student to transfer, I try to explore which subject strands or which subject or the strand within the subject that will help me to reach to my understanding, because every discipline has a particular lens. So which discipline's lens will help me or help my students to reach to my conceptual focus or reach to my central idea, if you want to keep it, I choose only those subjects. I do not try to teach a particular subject in all my subjects. For example, I do not, if suppose it's a science unit, right? I do not try to teach only, for example, ecosystem. I do not try to teach all the different types of ecosystems in different subjects. For example, in a Hindi lesson or in a Tamil lesson or in a language lesson, I have taken a paragraph about this particular ecosystem, or I'm doing a poem about this particular ecosystem, and that becomes my integration. Whenever we choose a discipline as an integration, we need to realize that what knowledge, skills, and understanding of my particular subject the students will transfer, that will help me to reach my conceptual understanding, my final conceptual understanding. That subject I will choose. At no point I will leave my subject knowledge away. My subject knowledge, my subject discipline, here you have to think like a specialist, right? So till now we were thinking like a generalist. What is the overall understanding? Now you have to think like a specialist. As an art teacher, what will I teach? Or what will I teach my students? Or what understanding will help my student reach to that focus? If it is a purposeful, relevant, and authentic, I integrate it. If it is not, I do not integrate it. Let me give you an example. These are some of the units we had. So if you see the first unit, you have it like a disasters unit, which is a very common natural disaster unit. I have chosen science strand. I have chosen social science strands. I have chosen a math and a thinking skill. Sometimes I also recommend to have ATL skills as one of the strands you want to have, because every unit there are some skills which can be explicitly taught. For example, research process, note-taking skills, systematic process, design thinking as a process, which can be systematically taught. And that can also be one of your strengths. And then I list down from sciences, what are the concepts I'm going to cover under sciences. Under social sciences, what are the concepts I'm going to cover that will help my teachers to reach to the main conceptual focus or your central idea. Under math, what specific math concepts I will teach or I will integrate. Under thinking skill, what specific processes or what specific conceptual processes I will choose that will help my students to reach to the main core central idea or the conceptual focus. So I only choose, even though I have a arts as a subject with me, even though I have a language as a subject with me, but I haven't integrated because it doesn't require here. So I have not integrated it. Similarly, if you see on your right-hand side, this is another unit on a role model with a conceptual lens of perspective and values. And then I try to see which are my strengths. Social studies, strand, PSPE as a strand. Under ATL, I have taken skills. And then there's language arts. And this is one of the planners I have taken from from when I was doing my CBCI course. This is one of the units which one of my participant had worked. From there, I have taken this. So as an example to show it to you. So you try to list down, brainstorm together, what are the different concepts I am going to teach within my subject, so that the transfer of that will help teachers to reach to the central idea. This process helps to give the depth to the subject. We are not leaving subject understanding to chance. I believe your conceptual understanding cannot be left to chance. We have to be very, very intentional when we design the units. This is one of the important stages. And this can be done collaboratively. In your collaborative meeting, when you have all the subject teachers which come together, we try to figure out each subject teacher, try to look, being a specialist, try to look into it, what concepts from my discipline students can transfer or learn and transfer that will help to reach my central idea. If it is required, relevant, and authentic, I use that. I try to integrate. If it is not, I will not integrate. And it also matches to my scope and sequence or subject continuum document. So I try with my subject continuum document. I look into the concepts, I have the subject concepts, and then I try to see my conceptual lens. I try to map it if it is authentically fitting and helping me to reach my relevant theme descriptor and the central idea I integrate. This is another example with families. So I have integrated social sciences, literacy, mathematics, visual arts. So even if I take a visual art as a thing, I will teach line, color, form. At no point I'm leaving away my subject focus. So whenever you're planning or brainstorming for integration, we do not brainstorm, okay, visual arts, you can teach okay, portrait, poster making, or visual arts, you can do model making. As a visual art teacher, if you want models to be there in your unit, then as a visual art teacher, you have to think what concepts of visual arts I will teach to my students that the transfer, they'll be able to make the model. Because that is the transfer of understanding that will help in my unit. It is not that one period or two period I teach them particular drawing, or they go there to that classroom, they make the model there, and that I show it as an integration. My integration is nothing but every subject should lead to a conceptual understanding. There should be an understanding of every subject that should be transferred within the unit. That much amount of time and focus is relevant. It's not about one period or two period. It's about the conceptual understanding and the transfer which students do that will help them to reach to the main big idea. Let's move to step 3. So now what we have done so far is step 1, as a generalist, we try to figure out the conceptual focus from our central idea and the theme descriptor. Next, we try to see if this is my focus and I want them to understand, I try which subjects can help me to reach to the conceptual focus. And then I try to brainstorm from each subject and strand, what are the possible concepts? In step 3, I do is my understanding. I try to frame my understanding of every subject that will be transferred. Now, this understanding is statement of understanding is different from your central idea. Your central idea is a broad concept, but here what I'm trying to see is I'm trying to be intentional at this particular stage. I'm trying to frame my KUD, that is knowledge, understanding, and do. Do means skill. I'm here being absolutely intentional. For example, if you see here, there's this unit, in this particular unit on role models, I had social studies as an integration. I had listed down together, these are the concepts I'll be teaching. Now, if these are the concepts I'll be teaching, I try to frame a statement of understanding, which we call it as generalization, according to Rachel French, Lynn Erickson. That statement of understanding is something the students have to reach and transfer within that subject. If you see over here, chosen role models often demonstrate desirable traits or make important contributions to the community or wider society. I make sure this understanding is relevant towards my conceptual focus. If students understand this understanding, which is not a central idea, but is also but an important conceptual understanding within my social studies unit that can help students for my conceptual focus. So every strand, every subject should at least have one conceptual understanding. The transfer of that will help me to reach to my conceptual focus. That's the idea. The reason and the purpose for doing this is we make sure that the subject depth is maintained. We are not compromising on the subject depth. And then there's an authentic transfer of conceptual understanding. Even if you're not able to make this statement of understanding, we need to make sure students should be able to connect the concepts which you're teaching under each subject. should be able to make connection between the concept and relate to your main focus and the theme and your central idea. Even if you're doing a PSPE, we try to understand coping with situations of change, challenge, and adversity can lead to resilience. Or if you're doing an ATL, then as a research process. If you're doing language arts, you have to think from the perspective of a language art. What conceptual understanding of language will help me in this particular unit? What conceptual understanding and transfer within the social studies will help me in this particular unit? What conceptual understanding and transfer within my PSPE will help me in this particular unit? What conceptual understanding and transfer within this transfer of the ATL will help me to reach to my central idea and the theme descriptor which I have targeted? That's the main purpose. That's your learning objective and curiosity. What knowledge, what understanding the students will transfer, and then what they'll be able to do. So if I'm going to teach them role models, values, choices, and one here I want to share is it is not necessary that the list of concepts which you have listed over here, you have to use all the way, everything. You can again filter it further and choose the one which is relevant. So this is all a collaborative process, making it authentic and purposeful. The reason I'm explaining in detail is for you to understand that when we try to integrate subjects, at no point we leave away the subject concepts. We always see that from the lens of that particular discipline, what will the students understand and transfer that will help in my unit focus. Because that is what is the step 3 focus. How can subject specific learning authentically transfer to the unit's big idea? For example, if I have to share is, I want students to write a biography, right? So I can teach teachers, I can teach my students biographers focus on key choices and actions to highlight the subject's contribution to the society. Now, if I want to make them understand and think like a biographer and they should be able to write biography writing, then I will teach them within my language. Now, sometimes people teach them using the content of my other discipline. You can do that and then they can transfer towards the conceptual focus. Yes, so I am trying to teach them a biographer. I can teach any famous person and I can teach them the biography writing especially so that they can transfer that within the unit, which can be one of my assessments or which can be one of my tasks. I want them to do a research process. I want them to understand what are primary and secondary resources. I'll teach them primary and secondary resources and information so that they can transfer it when they are researching about a particular role model. So this knowledge and understanding of that skill will help me in my unit. This knowledge and understanding of biography writing will help me in my unit. So I am integrating. I have to specifically teach those concepts, skills, and knowledge so that it is transferred. This is another unit, I would say. This is one of my units. If you see that in the previous one, out of all these strands, I have put down all my statement of understanding, which I call it as generalization within this over here. So when I see, if you see this over here is axial tilt and distance from the sun determine the seasonal pattern. That is completely related to seasons, seasonal patterns, internal forces, external, and the science unit. So this is what the transfer of this will help me to understand the seasons. Same way, another one, internal and external force of change results. So here I'm teaching them tectonic plates and the whole movement, which is a science, and the transfer of that understanding will help me to understand about disasters and the preparedness. So transfer of that science concept will help in this unit. That's the reason I'm integrating that. But at the same time, if you see math, I'm trying to figure out their understanding of interpreting data, conclusion, and prediction, because my focus is also towards connection, responses, preparedness. So in this unit, probably my students will have a lot of mathematical data about what is the impact of disasters. So as a mathematician, my students have to understand data graph, should be able to interpret data graph as a skill. So as a mathematician, I will first teach them how do we interpret data. And that transfer of that understanding will be useful in my unit. And that is the reason I have integrated it over here. Or then I have a thinking skill, which is majorly a design thinking skill, because I want them towards the end design a process or an alternative solution to a disaster plan. So they should know as a student how do a designer or systematically uses a process. So then the conceptual understanding of that will be transferred within the unit. If I see a social science unit, I want them to understand how disasters and how do we prevent disasters. So then prevention, response, recovery, survival, all these concepts from the social sciences will put together, and transfer of that will help me in my unit. And that is the reason I have incorporated that as a subject. So I'm here still giving the depth to my social sciences, depth to my sciences. So all the knowledge concepts of science, social science, math, skills are like those golden threads which we had discussed in the morning, are woven together. And then we have framed this unit towards a real life context. This is what we call it as, making it quite real. And the last stage is, once you have, as a unit, as a collaborative team, identified what is your KUD, what is your conceptual focus, what are the concepts you're trying to cover, you try to see which subjects or which concepts are overlapping or which disciplines are overlapping. You try to make connections. For example, in the previous unit, if you see over here, the math and the social sciences might go together, because you might use the interpretation of data to understand the response, prevention, and disaster management and safety and the consequences, which will overlap, and we try to design engagements together. We might use sciences and math also together if you're trying to understand the cause and effect of natural disaster, and along with the math here too. Or sometimes we might try to understand thinking skills along with sciences and social sciences. So we try to understand, we try to map those connections. And now we are trying to create the unit, try to create learning engagements which are authentic and purposeful, yet giving depth to my subject and broadness with all my concepts, with using conceptual focus. And then you design your integrated engagements and assessments to apply the knowledge, skill, and the concepts. This is how students use integrations. So I just want to say towards the end is like, whenever you're trying to do integration, first step is, as a whole team, think like a generalist. What is the overall focus or the conceptual focus of the unit you want students to transfer? And then think like a specialist. What is a specific disciplinary knowledge, skill, and the concept which my students will understand and transfer to reach to my understanding, core understanding, or the conceptual understanding. Now, this process can make it very, very real. And this is what I call it as authentic integration. Authentic integration is very, very purposeful to the unit. If you have a problem, in a very simple way, if you have a simple problem that I want to, if you have a very simple problem, any SDG problems, if you have taken, try to figure out what disciplinary knowledge, understanding, and skills will transfer to help reach and solve this particular problem. And this is how you design your particular unit. And I hope you have understood. And if you still have any question, you can connect with me. You can share with me. I'll be more than happy to answer it. That's me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect with me on Facebook. My name is Tannu Jain, and I also run my course. So if you wish to do it, you can attend it, and I'll be sharing with it. Thank you so much.